Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Obscure Testament. Today, we step into the shadows of history, where whispers of war echo through the ruins of forgotten battlefields. The stories you're about to hear aren't the tales of strategy, glory, or triumph. They are the strange, the inexplicable, and the terrifying moments that slip through the cracks of military records, still haunting the grounds where countless souls fell. Throughout centuries of warfare, countless men and women have claimed to see things that defy logic. Soldiers vanish without a trace, phantom battalions march through the mist, and cries from the dead are heard long after the fighting has ended. Some say it's stress or madness. Others believe that battlefields hold something darker, echoes of the agony that once consumed them. One of the most chilling accounts comes from the Somme in France. After the horrors of World War I, local farmers and tourists began reporting strange lights floating over the old trenches at night. These ghost lights danced above the soil, glowing blue and white, moving in patterns as if following invisible soldiers. Some historians dismissed it as phosphorescent gas from decaying bodies, but even decades later, when the land had long been cleared, the lights persisted. Witnesses swore they could hear faint murmurs, voices whispering orders in languages long dead. Then there's the tale from Stalingrad, where soldiers from both sides claim to have seen figures moving through the rubble in the dead of night. These figures wore uniforms from centuries before, some from wars that had taken place long before the Second World War. They appeared solid until approached, then dissolved into dust or mist. German officers tried to dismiss the reports as paranoia, yet diaries found later described men screaming into the night after claiming to be touched by the ghosts of Stalingrad. In Vietnam, American troops stationed deep in the jungle began reporting the sounds of crying children echoing through the trees. Patrols followed the sounds, only to find nothing. Some described the forest going completely silent. No insects, no wind, just that faint weeping. On one infamous night in 1969, a group of soldiers followed the cries into a clearing and vanished without a trace. The next morning, a search team found their rifles and helmets neatly placed in a circle, but the men were gone. Locals whispered that the jungle had taken them back. But not all battlefield hauntings are of the dead. They can also be of time itself. In 1971, two British tourists visiting the site of the Battle of Waterloo claimed to have witnessed the battle in full motion. Cannons thundered, smoke filled the air, and soldiers in 19th century uniforms ran past them shouting in French and English. When they blinked, it was all gone. Scientists would later call it a time slip, a phenomenon where moments of the past briefly reappear. But if time itself can replay its horrors, how many battlefields still echo with invisible wars? In Gettysburg, one of the bloodiest battles of the American Civil War, park rangers still receive reports from visitors who see soldiers marching across the fields at dawn. Some even capture them in photographs, ghostly figures walking through the fog, rifles in hand. Once a group of reenactors claimed that as they practiced drills, a man in an authentic Union uniform joined them silently. When they turned to thank him, he vanished before their eyes. Later, they recognized his face in an old photograph displayed at the museum. He had died in that same field over a century ago. The phenomenon isn't limited to soldiers. In the ruins of an ancient Roman battlefield in Germany, archaeologists recorded faint chanting and footsteps echoing through the night. No one was there. The area had been deserted for centuries, yet the ground seemed alive, as if the earth itself remembered the chaos. One historian wrote, "Wars end, but their screams never die. They are buried just beneath the soil, waiting to be heard again. Some military bases built atop old battlefields report ongoing hauntings even today." In Okinawa, Japan, a modern American base was constructed near the site of a fierce World War II confrontation. Soldiers on night watch frequently hear footsteps behind them, only to turn and find no one there. One guard reported a shadowed figure saluting him before fading into the fog. When he described the apparition's uniform, historians confirmed it belonged to the Japanese Army from 1945. In the deserts of North Africa, an old battlefield from World War II is said to be cursed. Explorers and travelers passing through have claimed to see ghost convoys, trucks and tanks from another era, rolling silently across the dunes under the moonlight. When approached, they fade like smoke. Some even claim to hear engines roaring and radios crackling with ghostly transmissions, long after the last soldier had fallen. Another story emerges from the Korean War. A group of soldiers on night patrol claim to hear singing in the distance, ancient Korean hymns echoing across the hills. The strange part? The area they were stationed in had once been a burial site for thousands of villagers killed during the Japanese occupation. Every night the same melody returned, growing louder, as if the voices were calling for remembrance. Even more unsettling are the reports from modern conflicts. In Afghanistan, soldiers have recorded mysterious figures appearing on infrared cameras, bodies moving through areas where no human life could survive. When they went to investigate, they found no footprints, no heat signatures, nothing. The soldiers described feeling a heavy, suffocating presence, as if the air itself was thick with unseen sorrow. Some believe battlefields act like magnets, trapping human energy within their soil. When enough death and despair saturate the ground, the veil between the living and the dead becomes thin. The boundaries of time blur, and fragments of history repeat themselves. It's as if the land refuses to forget what it witnessed. There's a site in Eastern Europe where, after heavy rain, strange shapes appear beneath the waterlogged soil, human outlines, hands reaching out, faces pressed against the mud as if trapped just below the surface. Archaeologists call it a coincidence of erosion. Locals call it proof that the battlefield still breathes. Another eerie phenomenon occurred in the Falkland Islands after the war in 1982. Farmers claimed that their livestock refused to graze near certain areas where heavy fighting had taken place. One night, a group of shepherds saw lines of shadowy figures walking across the hills in perfect military formation. They disappeared into the fog. The following morning, they found old boots, British and Argentine, half buried in the soil where the figures had marched. And perhaps one of the strangest events comes from a modern-day soldier stationed in Iraq who shared his experience online under anonymity. During a late-night patrol, his squad heard gunfire coming from an abandoned village. They took cover, preparing for combat, but when they entered, the village was empty. The gunfire stopped, replaced by muffled shouting in old Arabic dialects. As they stood frozen, one soldier swore he saw a group of shadowy men running through the alleys, carrying weapons from another era. When they fired a flare to light the area, everything vanished, and the radio went silent. History holds endless stories like these, whispers of something beyond human understanding. The horrors of war do not simply fade with peace treaties or ceasefires. They linger, carved into the earth, replaying endlessly in echoes we can barely perceive. Maybe the strangest truth of all is this: the dead of war don't always rest. They march on, unseen, their pain imprinted in the world around us. And if you stand in the right place, at the right time, under the same moon that watched them die, you might just hear their footsteps too. So the next time you walk across a quiet field that once bore the cries of men and the thunder of cannons, listen carefully. The silence may deceive you. Beneath it, something still stirs. Whispers of war, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. Thank you for watching Obscure Testament. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories from the shadows.